5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello and welcome to Truth, Beer, and Podsequences. So this is the podcast where my co-host and I listen to all the Cincinnati-based craft beer podcasts from the previous week. We get together at our podcast host today, which is Higher Gravity, Summit Park, and thank you to our gracious podcast hosts. And what we do is we give our version of the truth of how those podcasts went, and hopefully there aren't too many consequences from the hosts of the other shows. And so far, so good.
Pretty good. We've been pretty good for a while.
Pretty good. I am Marco. I am a taproom manager here locally in Cincinnati. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited. A bit of a change, but also the same in a lot of ways. So very excited. And I do not work for a company that maybe several other people in the podcast, the Cincinnati Podcast Network work for. So,
you know, they should start their own podcast network. Of all the no, they should not. So I'm just making a funny.
I mentioned that to a friend of ours.
Great minds, I'm telling you.
I mentioned that to a friend of ours, and the problem is money. People don't really
have it.
Pay for that,
or that
sort of thing that we're doing. But we appreciate all of our supporters financially and otherwise. And that voice you heard is from the best co-host in Podcastlandia.
I am Julia, and all I am is a drinker of all the craft beers here in the Cincinnati area.
That's not all you are.
I also like to write funny things about craft beer, parodies of songs to the tune of craft beer, especially during my favorite season of the year, which is fastly approaching beer vent season.
Yeah.
Shout out to Higher Gravity and their beer vent calendars. They are on sale right now at Higher Gravity Craft House, HAUS.com. You can pick them up at either the North Side or the Blue Ash location starting. They're going to try to have them ready, I believe, the week before Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving, somewhere late November.
That ready. They should be ready by then. I'm busy, but yeah, they should be able to get those ready.
Yes, so definitely get them. It is a new beer every day in the month of December. It is the best time of the year, hands down. So buy your beer vent boxes. Don't bitch when they're sold out and you didn't get one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Marco, since we are technically a craft beer podcast, we should let people know that we are drinking, although for the second week in a row, you do not have a craft beer in your glass. So my apologies to all the listeners. I'll let you know the craft beer in my glass first because I'm sticking to the laminated show sheet, and I am drinking a craft beer.
Okay.
I am drinking dry hopped Zwickel, which is funnily enough, a Zwickel beer. And it is from Bitburg Brewery.
Bitburger,
yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why I added like a weird French thing to the end of that. My accents, they're not the best.
That's okay.
What are you drinking that I may regret allowing you to? By
Julia,
the end of this
for
episode.
the second week in a row, I have a nice glass of Terramana Reposado tequila.
So good, but
it's
not as good as
the Clase Azul.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so good.
That was ridiculous. That was my first, just plain straight tequila experience.
Yeah.
And I am now ruined for life because
it was so good.
It is incredible.
It was so good. I did have a fest beer from Third Eye just before this.
That's true, you did.
And I am going back to beer after this. We are not making this
a tequila show.
Another tequila show. That was a lot of fun, but
it was a lot of fun. You guys did not hear most of that. Most of that got cut from our bonus episode, but yes, it was
good.
It was amazing.
It was a lot of fun.
Marco,
Julia,
did you happen to listen to any? I almost said craft parenting podcasts this week,
did.
But that is one of them.
I did.
Craft Beer Podcast, Cincinnati based this week. So we already both confirmed we both listened to this week's craft parenting podcast.
Yep.
Did you happen to check out? I almost said Dancing with the Gnome. I don't know why. Drinking with the Gnome.
Maybe that's another podcast that he's working on, which is why we haven't gotten a Cincy Brewcast or the Cincinnati.
Ooh, the Cincinnati Brewcast. Are we drinking?
Yeah, we're gonna.
All right, boop. Let's do this. Although I think that Dancing with the Gnome would be more video content for his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
promo code GNOME at manscaped.com. Doesn't tie into this in any way, shape, or form, but I'm throwing it out there for him.
Yeah.
Let's see. Brew Sky's Happy Hour.
I did.
We got another episode of that. Super cool episode. I'm very excited to talk about that one. And Shift Beers. One of their final episodes. Or is it? Or is it? All right. Let's go ahead because you're going to take a while sipping through that.
Yeah, I'm going to
What would you like to get started with this week?
Two of these podcasts have what may or may not be one of my supervisors in them.
So do we end with those two, or do we start with those two?
No, I like what we've been doing. We've started with Craft Parenting Pod. We've ended with Shift Beers, and let's throw the others in between.
All right, so let's go ahead and run through episode 72 of Craft Parenting Podcast, the one with Chris from Shift Beers.
I know that guy.
We both know that guy.
We do.
They recorded at our old podcast home, BC's Bottle Lodge, Montgomery. Rest in peace.
Yep.
To the location. I mean, I guess for when I say BC's Bottle Lodge, I just have to end with that. I don't have to say BC's Bottle Lodge Liberty because it's the only BC's left. And then once the brewery opens, but the brewery is going to be BC's Brewing. Are they going to change the name of the Bottle Lodge to just... Okay.
They will be BC's Brewing Company.
Brewing Company across the board.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I stopped there at BC's Liberty.
I saw that.
Yeah.
How was it? I was only up there once, and that was years and years and years ago.
It was very nice to... I was with Vincent. We were doing a little running around.
Did he get some craft sodas?
Was it last Wednesday, the day after the tequila show?
It might have been.
It might have been. But went up there, did a little bit of a run. A beer or two at one place, one beer at another, a beer at another place, that kind of thing. And it started all the way at BC's Liberty and worked our way back towards this area, and it was nice.
Good.
It was
nice.
It was really nice. I got to see Caleb.
Awesome.
I got to see Ben Comer.
I was going to ask which
Ben won. And then
That's cool.
Ben won. Kenobi. And then I saw the brewer for BC's Brewing Company.
Nice.
Got to talk a little bit. That was
we
nice.
got to talk with him during our last recording session at BC's Bottle Lodge, Montgomery.
We did.
That was a lot of fun.
Was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Although the air conditioning's better here. That's all I'm going to say.
It is. It is. Well, we also don't have giant roll-down doors.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
tempt you to open them.
Yes,
when
when it's a billion degrees.
Yeah, a billion degrees.
Anyway, let's get back on track.
To
Craft Parenting Podcast. So apparently Chris's oldest kid has already been told that she has to work for a certain chain of breweries or like a conglomeration of breweries when she is old enough. She has no choice in the matter. And I mean, it's kind of good that she has her career path already planned out for her.
And somebody you don't want to fuck with.
This is very true. She has black belts. She has a sword. Multiple swords, maybe. You never know. She's not going to give away all of her secrets.
You never know.
She is an amazing gymnast. So in between, like, the kicks and the sword chops, she's going to be, like, backhand springing all over the place. You're never going to be able to catch her. She is formidable for sure.
At her young age, just imagine that if Chris's daughter was in Kill Bill.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the kind of level of like lethal. She is a lethal weapon. Mm-hmm. And they go over that. And of course, Chris is very proud, as he should be.
Oh, he should be, absolutely.
Should be absolutely proud.
Yeah, he should be proud. And I had the pleasure of meeting both of his kids. Wonderful. My God, they are... they're going to be just like him.
Did you feel the lethalness coming off of?
Yeah, it's like radiating. Like, how like some people are like, oh, I can see your aura, I can feel your energy.
Right.
Like
when Rick James was alive, when he walked into that club. It's like, or like when Charlie Murphy and Eddie Murphy walked in the club and Rick James was there and just had that aura.
And just had, good God.
Rick James, bitch.
Fuck your couch.
That's right.
I cannot watch that because I ugly cry laughing the entire time. So one of the funniest things about this episode was right in the very beginning of the episode. So they were doing the little like intro stuff, talking about, kids and stuff. And then Joe asked Chris, how, is your beer good? Do you need a break? And Chris is like, no, I'm good. Well, then Joe hits the brake button. It's like an immediate break. And I'm like, Chris said he was good. He could have kept going.
Nah.
I got a pretty good chuckle out of that one. Not sure if it was intentional or not, but I definitely enjoyed do you need a break? No. Taking one anyway.
Taking one anyway. Fuck
Hey,
it, it's my podcast.
Exactly.
Joe said, look at me. It's my podcast.
My podcast now. They talked a bit about the kids' shows that their kids are currently watching, and then that kind of tangented into the shows that they used to watch as kids. When I was younger, it was Kratts Creatures, not Wild Kratts. And, I mean, that was... Okay, so I was probably a teenager, and I just liked shows with animals in them. So, I mean, I don't say when I was a child, I watched...
Like 17, 18?
You know, age doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter when I watched it.
As far as cartoons.
As far as cartoons go.
It doesn't matter as far as cartoons.
Sure, we'll go with that. They talked about the Florida Man Challenge, and then they said that there should be a Florida Woman Challenge.
There should be.
As well. So I did it.
You did it.
I did it.
I knew you were going to.
I can't disappoint the fans that know that I overindulge in like digging into all these weird little pieces that these podcasts
Love
do.
it.
So because we share a birthday, you get to share in my Florida womanness. I don't even know if that's, I don't know.
That's cool.
But we'll go with that.
I'll
And this one is fitting. So my Florida Woman Challenge resulted in a woman accused of scamming people out of nearly $100,000 for, and you can't see my air quotes unless you're watching the Patreon live stream over there. Where do we put the camera?
Don't say it's foot pics.
No.
Okay.
It's better than that.
Okay.
Witchcraft services. I'm like, that is so beyond perfect. I loved it. I loved it. They talked a bit about
how can you prove that?
How could you prove that you weren't successful in what you tried to do? Some of these witchcraft, like the spells and all that, take a long time. It's not instant gratification, okay? Not that I practice for long, but sometimes you got to wait these things out. These people will get what's coming to them eventually.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure. Why not?
Look, if that witch said somebody would die, they're not wrong.
Right.
Eventually.
Right. I don't know. I'm not so sure that this scam was as scammy as what they're claiming. She may have been running a perfectly legit business.
Yeah.
They just didn't wait long enough. Come on.
That's the story we're sticking with.
Exactly. So now I want to know what Chris's wife and Caroline's Florida women stories are. So, guys, Chris, let us know what your wife's is. And Joe and Caroline, put that into your next episode. I demand it.
They went into... the journey,
which is really interesting.
Yeah, just
really cool.
The journey of, from college to out of college to working to his wife working to where they went,
all the places that they lived.
Yeah.
Which was super. I didn't realize some of them. Right.
Landing in Cincinnati.
That was they both sacrificed so much to end up here, and I'm glad. I mean, I really love having Chris in the city. Like, I'm so happy that this is where they landed, so we got to meet them. They talked a bit about college versus trade, like trade schools, and it's true, and it's something that we've mentioned before on a couple episodes ago, that so much focus is, and this is especially relevant today with the student debt forgiveness and all that kind of stuff that has some people happy, some people are pissed. It is what it is. But the whole idea that as a parent, you need to be cognizant of some kids just aren't made for college, but they'd be perfect in a trade. And there is, and why is that so frowned upon? Like, why did the U.S. decide that a piece of paper was more important than an actual working skill?
Well, not just a trade, but also being great at all the service industry things. So many different jobs that make everyday life the luxury civilized and the luxury that they live in. That's probably a quote from Mike wrote there. Julia, good job. But yes, that's absolutely true, and I'm not going to get on, and I won't have to get off any sort of soapbox, but that they really do talk about the fact that yes, college is right for some, great for some, and even for those that go, if they're not going to go and work and be in those professions, are they able to pay off that student loan, that student debt? If they have no student loan, student debt, because they were able to work through getting whatever degree it may be, and they're not going to go into that field, well, then that's fine, because there is value in learning. There's value in achieving that level of education. But that's not for everybody, and we shouldn't necessarily think that everybody has to be funneled in that route, because there are several other routes to go.
It's all important.
Right.
And they had a really good conversation about those and about their experiences and what and how they will. Neither of them sounded like they were going to try to push their kids one way or another. It was just, as they grow up, they're going to learn, hey, formal education, schooling doesn't seem to be a great fit for one of my kids. So if they decide they don't want to go to college, I'm not going to push that. I'm going to try to encourage them to do a service, a trade, that kind of thing. And I really enjoyed that part of this episode.
Yeah, it was definitely a part of the show that I could connect with and really feel like I understood where they were coming from, which I think just about anybody could.
Even I don't have kids, and even I was able to relate and be like, yeah, I mean, just knowing how things were for me growing up, it was still incredibly relatable.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you had? Because I have some multiple choice questions. Or, well, I have one question as a multiple choice question about this episode that you can either choose to answer, or we can just kind of leave it up in the air for our listeners to.
Well, this is exciting, Julia.
Yeah. I got a little creative with this listening experience.
Okay, nice. Do you want to lead in? Do you want an introduction?
Sure. Why not?
Who should we call and get to introduce the multiple choice?
Let's do Liam Neeson.
Julia has a particular set of skills. She will find you. She will hunt you down. And she will ask you a multiple choice question.
They had a segment where they talked about sleepwalking.
Oh, yeah.
What did Joe do or almost do while sleepwalking one time?
Ah, okay.
Did he A, make or almost make a bottle for one of his kids? Did he almost take a shower? Or did he first start homebrewing?
Ah, very good. I'm going to leave that up to the listeners. What I will say is, if I am not going to choose either of those, I'm going to choose D. And it is, he stood up in the middle of the night, opened the closet door, and almost peed in the closet. Yeah. So all the listeners can choose between A, B, C, or D.
Or D. Please don't take the D, guys. That's all I'm going to say to that one. All right. You are still good on your tequila.
Yeah, I'm so good.
I am still good on my beer. So would you like to move on to Brew Sky's Happy Hour or Drinking with the Gnome? You know what? I feel kind of sad that we don't get to say the Cincinnati Brewcast.
Let's say cheers.
This week. Cheers. Drink. While you think about which podcast you want to cover next.
I feel like it's been normal for us to go from Craft Parenting Pod to Brew Skies.
Okay.
So let's go to...
Oh, we're switching it up then to Drinking with the Gnome.
Drinking with the Gnome.
Or his next big YouTube project, Dancing with the Gnome.
Dancing with the Gnome.
With a glass of some alcoholic beverage in hand. It's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
I can just see the sparkles on his coat.
Yes.
Right now.
Dancing with the Gnome.
This was Drinking with the Gnome. Wow. I'm going to try that one again. This is Drinking with the Gnome. Oh, my God. So this is Drinking with the Gnome, episode 16, with Josh from Fruitblood Wine, which I feel like there are all the Andys. We almost need all the Joshes.
Yeah.
Because there are more and more Joshes in the... I'll just say alcohol industry because, well, although it would still kind of be brewing because Josh Elliott of Fruitblood Wines, he started as the head brewer at Urban Artifact.
Elliott.
For those of you not watching the Patreon live stream, Marco just did an amazing ET impression, finger and all. They had a really cool talk about all the similarities between how Urban Artifact makes their beer and how Fruitblood makes their wine, as far as like spontaneous fermentation and adding
kidding.
fruits and using fruits instead of just, yeasts and Brett's and singular and multiple Brett, all involved in that. And it was I don't want to call it a much more educational podcast than a conversational podcast, because it was a really good split between education of the winemaking process and specifically the overly fruited winemaking process, if that's a thing. That's what I'm going to kind of call what Fruitblood is doing.
I felt like this episode it followed that Josh through his journey with Urban Artifact.
Oh, yeah.
And really, it was one of those things where one thing led to another, and then the natural progression led to, okay, well, I'm going to do this now. That's pretty much the way it felt to me, is that it started off conversationally, hey, this is Josh Fruitblood Wine, and then he takes you through his journey, which just, of course, led to this.
It sounded like it was almost a mutual decision between like him and, I don't know if it was just Brett, how many people from Urban Artifact were kind of involved in it. So I'll just say Urban Artifact as kind of an entity in this conversation. But it sounded like when the idea for doing wine the same way that Urban Artifact does, well, I keep saying beer, but it's not beer. They're fruit tarts. So Brett, I'm sorry. Meet me up at HG sometime. We'll buy you a pint or two to make up for me calling your drinks beers, even though you have said multiple times it's not beer. The decision to go into wine is something that, to me, from the conversation, felt like they both kind of wanted to do it, but with licensing and the way that it had to be done, it made more sense for it to be a complete separate company, a complete separate entity. There's still a lot of partnership between the two, but Fruitblood is its own thing. It is not an Urban Artifact product, although they are still very closely interlocked as far as kind of the interactions, how you can get the wine, the places you can get the wine, and a lot of the inspirations between the two brands. Does that make sense? I felt like I had...
It does to me, but I listened.
I felt like I had a better way of trying to explain that in my head, and even in my notes, and trying to translate that into words is failing miserably.
Well, a lot of times in my head, while I'm sleeping, I think of these wonderful ways to put things together about these podcasts. And then I wake up and I totally forget all that shit. And which is why my notes a lot of times look very much like your notes.
It's true. They do.
And
they do. Your brain dump is
all
very
the things
similar to mine.
in between your notes, I've already thought of all of them and forgotten them by the time we get here, and then put all this regurgitate or accidentally spill out of our mouths whatever comes out.
Yeah. So they did try. Well, Gnome tried. Josh has had, obviously, all of his wines before, but they drank a couple of the different wines that Fruitblood makes. And one of them, Gnome said it was kind of a cherry-focused wine called Love Bite. And Gnome said...
Love Bites.
It's wine. I'm trying to come up with these on the fly. Just does not work as well as I would hope.
Yeah, we could vet that
But
out.
he was... We'll dig into it. So Gnome was saying that he thought he hated cherries in beverages, in beers, in drinks, that type of thing. But then he tried Love Bites and realized that his hatred of cherries in beverages was completely justified. It was kind of an awkward part of the conversation. But Josh took it well. He took it well. Let's see, what are some of the other things that... because what we did was we grabbed the 4 different Fruitblood wines that they have up here at Higher Gravity Summit Park. Their branding is pretty psychedelic.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like any other wine brand that's out there on the shelf. And these wines are, number one, they're in the cooler, but also they had some that were out on the shelf next to all the other wines. They don't look like that at all.
No. So, Marco, do you want to talk about your thoughts on the design of 2 of the bottles, and I'll do the other 2?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. What do you have there first?
Okay, first of all of them are partially wax dipped.
Yes.
In a different color, and it's with a beer cap at the top of.
I would just say bottle cap, but
bottle cap at the top of a wine bottle.
Yes.
This one, which is Fruitblood, is a Warshot test in which you could either find, looking at it initially, 2 people sharing or biting into a fruit on each end, or if you looked at it upside down, it looks like a lady in a bikini.
Oh, you're right. Interesting. That's really cool. It does look like a lady in a bikini. So the one that I have in front of me right now is Sleepwalker. And this is cool because there is glitter all over the label. So as soon as you pick this up, it's going to get on your hands. It's going to get everywhere. It's going to multiply.
It's
Not
awesome.
Really. It's a really cool label, though. It's sparkly. It's glittery.
My family
It
knows
looks-
I love glitter.
Who doesn't? It looks like a decoupage piece.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely think that this is fantastic. Sorry for the bottle noises all over the table. I'm going to reach over and grab one of the other ones. Oh, I like this one. Feral Cat. I'm just going to let you guys guess what this label has a picture of, but there is a third eye and smiley faces in addition to what you would expect to see on a bottle of something called Feral Cat.
And then
Which I never noticed the third eye when I've looked at these before. That's really cool. Yeah.
And I have Mercury in retrograde.
It's another one that Gnome tried.
Yeah, red grapes and boysenberries.
Poison.
This one's very psychedelic with
It's another glittery one.
A glittery label. What is this? This very real color mesh psychedelic, almost like
It's a Grateful Dead-esque kind of, or
what are those little rubber balls that have the different colors to them where you bounce them and
oh yeah, like the high
super
bounce balls, super bounce balls, high bounce balls.
Super
You're
bounce-
right. Yeah.
looks like that.
Or kind of like an old Winamp visualization, if you
Yes.
are old enough to remember those.
That's what I was thinking. Exactly, Julia. Exactly.
Oh, man. But no, this was a really cool episode. I like drinking with the Gnome because, for the most part, he touches on non-beers. Sometimes he does do beer, but for the most part, this is a podcast series that he gets to focus on the other things that he likes to drink, be it cocktails. He did one many months ago on Shifu. Hopefully he does one on sake, or maybe did he do it on sake? I don't know. Neither of us can remember offhand, but if you look back through the other 15 episodes, you can see that. But I'm glad that he touched on wine for this one, and I'm very glad that he touched on Fruitblood wine because it's local, it's different, it's heavily fruited. It's not your typical just pressed and fermented grapes, which kind of leads me into the next talking point that I had, and kind of the final talking point that I had on this episode. So before I get into that, it's another multiple choice question.
Oh.
Did you have anything else on this episode of Drinking with the Gnome that you wanted to go over before we get to that?
No. I mean, let's get to the multiple choice.
Okay. Do you want to introduce this one with, say, who would be appropriate for an introduction into a question about wine? Anna Wintour. The blank stare you're giving me says it all. Editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine. Very fancy, posh. I picture her with a glass of wine or champagne in her hand at all times. How about I just go for it? Because I kind of threw you off.
Or do you have
nothing.
an impression for that?
I've got nothing.
You don't have anything for that?
No. That's as good as you guys are going to get. So this multiple choice question, they talked a bit about label approvals, and there was one specific style of wine that he had a lot of trouble getting the label approved for. He had to kind of go back and forth a couple times on it.
Yeah, this is it's a little cumbersome.
That's what they should have named the wine.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. Maybe that can be something else. A cucumber-infused wine. Somehow make that work and call it cucumbersome. Hey, Josh, reach out to us. We're at Truth Beer Pod. Let us know what you think.
Good. Not a lot of sugar.
Why did the Piquette label have so much trouble getting approved? Was it A, because of Chris from Shift Beers?
Yeah.
Was it B, because of Chris from Shift Beers?
Yeah.
Or was it C, freaking Chris from Shift Beers?
Yeah. I think it was probably D, Chris from Ship Beers.
More than likely.
Yeah.
More than likely. Really cool episode. Loved hearing about Fruitblood wine. If you see it somewhere, I don't know if Josh is still doing tastings every now and then at like Higher Gravity and other places, but you can buy single glasses of it at Urban Artifact. I don't know if it's on tap there all the time, but most of the time. And also at Hop and Vines. So if you just want to try a glass instead of buying a full
Is it on
bottle.
tap, or is it by the
Well,
glass
I think you
anyway?
buy the glass. I think I say on tap because I'm normally drinking beer and that's tap.
That's not far from
Probably
here.
it's not.
Hop and Vines.
We could wrap this up early and maybe go over there and have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
To wrap things up.
That's
All
not
right,
far.
All right. You can also order. You can obviously buy bottles of Fruitblood wine at both Higher Gravity locations. You can order Fruitblood wine on their website, fruitblood.com. They will ship it either to your house or you can pick it up at Urban Artifact. And those are your ways to...
Or try shipping it to your work.
Yes.
And then just
see what happens.
see what happens.
Yeah.
I saw that Rheingeist was going into Texas.
Congratulations to them.
They are going into Texas. I think the Houston
All
area.
of Texas or just... Okay.
I think
Okay.
Houston area first. They're
that's
going in
awesome.
their RG Bevs pack, I think, next month to follow with core beers in December, if I'm not mistaken.
That is freaking awesome.
So how about
Congratulations
that?
to them. That is fantastic.
How about that?
That is our recap of Drinking with the Gnome, soon to be Dancing with the Gnome, the YouTube special 5-part series.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on his YouTube channel for that. It's going to be all sequins all the time. It's going to be amazing.
Salsa and merengue.
Speaking of, your tequila glass is empty, sir.
It is.
So do we need to take a quick break and let you get a refill?
Yeah,
And,
well, not a refill.
well,
tequila.
no. I
I'm
wasn't
gonna
going to
switch.
let you. You're limited to one.
Thanks.
I'm keeping you safe, sir.
Yeah. Rachel, Julie's watching out for me.
I am keeping an
and
eye
she
on it.
always is.
Yeah, I try to. Let's take a real quick break, and then we will come back and cover Brew Sky's Happy Hour and Shift Beers.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back. Holy cow, we made it back, and Marco does not have another tequila.
No.
I'm doing good at keeping an eye on you.
Yeah.
You're an adult. You do what you want. However,
I wasn't going to have another tequila.
unless it was out of a very specific bottle.
Yeah.
And then maybe.
Maybe.
But
No, but that was fun. That was
That was-
fun. We did that, so I wanted to have a tequila.
It was
Yeah,
awesome.
that was fun.
it was awesome. You
but I-
ruined me forever for tequilas because now I only will drink the best.
Oh, it was so good. I had what you have, the Dry Hoppens Vickel.
Nice.
Yeah, from Beethbagger.
Excellent, excellent.
So, and it's delicious. And I mean, let's do it. Let's get into Brew Sky's Happy Hour.
All right, this is episode 10 with Bill Owens, which the name was not familiar to me, but when I looked up some of his photography, because he is the man of a million talents. I mean, the list of things that he has done is staggering. I recognize some of the images. I'm like, oh, I've seen this before, and I've seen this picture before. But this does not delve into his photography experience much, although it does touch on a couple of the experiences he had as a photographer.
5.
6.
Yeah. The count.
The count. He did touch a bit on his experience with photography and the Hells Angels, which is probably one of his most famous
Extremely
photographs.
iconic. So
look-
when you're an extremely accomplished and at that point, I don't know if he was iconic at that point, but I mean, this many decades, across the decades, he's been an iconic photographer. What do you do when you're an iconic photographer and you can't seem to get work because you're so good that everyone thinks you're too expensive to hire and your profession's photography?
you start America's first brew pub.
You start America's first brew pub. That's what you do. I mean,
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to even before that part of the episode to the kind of intro that Brett and Mike always do about their
Yes.
gracious, the sponsor of their podcast, which is Higher Gravity.
Uh-huh.
They keep saying, we'll see you at the bar. We'll be at the bar. I have never once seen them at the bar.
No.
So either they are...
I haven't seen them here at Blue Ash, which makes a lot of sense
That
because
does
I
make a
think
lot of
Brett and
sense.
Mike, tend
Probably
to
are closer to North
Side.
And
but
by the time I get down there at like 7 o'clock in the evening on a Friday night, they're nowhere to be found. So I don't know if they're just saying that to say it, or if maybe just our schedules just don't
Speaking of
overlap in any way, shape, or form.
Speaking of saying it to say it, did Michael say he was unemployed? I ran a segment of that show back at least 3 times. I was like, I swear he just mumbled under his breath that he was unemployed.
I think it was more the man, I'm unemployable, which is a different thing than being
fine.
unemployed.
Totally different. Like, Mike, I hope you are working. If you want to work, if you need to work, I hope you're working. If you don't need to work and you are just, living your best life, then so be it. But if you...
He is self-employed and happy as hell about it.
Good.
I don't know.
Good, whatever. Mike, just hope you're good, bud. Mike, you good?
I'm sure he's good.
Okay, Julia.
He's an author.
You good?
No. Yes.
All right.
Yes, no,
there
I'm
you go.
good. Some of the things that Bill Owens has done, he has founded beer magazines. He has written beer books. Maybe Mike can take a couple notes on that, because I think Mike said that he wants to author
but he
a couple
can't start America's first brew pub.
No.
Mike's an author, but he can't start America's first brew pub.
Well, not with that attitude. And Bill Owens, as we've already said, kind of dabbles in photography on the side, on occasion.
Dabbles to a accredited, award-winning degree.
Oh my God, I'm telling you. The story that he told about his process of opening his brew pub was absolutely hilarious, and it's because it was perfectly tinged with the personal struggles and the whole trials and tribulations and the fallouts that happened because of trying to open it and during the opening and how he tried to keep everything afloat. He's an amazing storyteller.
Not only that, and yes, he is, but along with that, it's not only that, but along with that, he almost goes in and gives you how he really feels about some of these legends. And I'm using air quotes, but there's no need for air quotes because they are legends in the craft beer business. And he goes right up to the edge and almost gives you what he really thinks about some of these folks.
Well, and that's one of the things that I had written down is the stories that he told about, and just pulling 2 of the names that he mentioned out of the air, the stories about Fritz and Jack. I love how all of their guests all just interconnect, their stories all cross, they're interwoven with each other, even in small parts. But everything that Brett and Mike have done with this podcast so far has been so closely connected and so closely related to each other that I love seeing these relationships, as big or small as they may be, between all of these amazing, and I'll just call them all beer barons, whether it's authors or people in the Smithsonian or brew pub owners or brewery owners. They are all so closely linked, and you don't realize that until you listen to these episodes and hear all of these stories. And it's like, oh yeah, when I ran into, Fritz one time and talked to him here at, GABF in this competition that I just randomly created to see who can make the most bitter beer because I was the most bitter man on the planet. Holy cow! It's just I don't know. It's phenomenal. I cannot say enough good things about Bruce guys.
What is great, and it jumps out to me as somebody who, as being in the beer business, also being in retail and management and all these other things. I mean, I'm trying to compile lists. Top 5. Okay, let's do it. Top 5.
Top 5, all right.
All right, got a top 5. So from Bruce Guy's Happy Hour, from all of the episodes that they put out, top 5 list of things you need to be successful in the beer business. Brewery,
Okay.
brewery, brew pub,
Just business,
like
craft beer venture.
craft beer venture.
There
Are
we
you
go.
ready?
I am ready.
Number 5 on my. I don't have any OLIs. I don't have any outside looking ins. Although, I mean, if you have your own list, you could have an OLI.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with number 5. Number 5 is passion. You don't go into this without having a passion
Oh, absolutely,
for
right.
beer, for the beer business, for wanting to either the process or the outcome, whether it's drinking great beer, whether it's the process of making great beer, whether it's the process of being around great beer. But yeah, number 5 is passion. And are we ready? So number 4 on my list, knowledge. Yeah, so number 4, knowledge. I mean, you need to dig in. You need to know what you're doing, right? And a lot of times what happens is people who are just passionate but not knowledgeable, they won't make it. And so knowledge, passion, put them together. You have some more tools that you need to be successful in
But
the
what
beer
if you
business.
have the passion, but maybe you don't know exactly what you're doing, but you're willing to learn from your mistakes, so you're willing to gain that knowledge as you try to figure out why didn't this work, which is what like Fritz and Jack kind of ran into with some stuff. It's like, why is this beer sour? Why is this, why is this thing happening? They might not have had the knowledge per se. They definitely had that passion, but they also had that desire to learn and to become knowledgeable.
Yeah, so I mean you may be on to my number 3, Julia.
Okay.
Did you read my notes before I did this?
I may have glanced, but I couldn't read your handwriting, I'll be honest, so I'm not exactly sure what you had written
All
down.
right, so number 3 on this list is, are you ready?
Yes.
Tenacity. All right, so you got to be tenacious, right? And tenacious in all different ways, all aspects coming from around the circle, right? Coming into it, and whether you have passion, if you don't have knowledge but are passionate to get the knowledge, gain the knowledge, go into the knowledge and dig into what's needed, that is passion, knowledge, tenacity, all of those things you certainly need. Going up to number 2. We're getting ready for number 2. Everybody ready? So these are my top 5 things that I have pulled from Brew Sky's Happy Hour. All these episodes this season have been fantastic. What do you need? My big takeaways on what you need to start up your own craft beer business and hopefully be around for a long time. I'm not going to call Bill's business a failure.
No,
because
not at all.
He started the first beer pub in America. It was around for a really long time. But I think we're getting down to the nitty-gritty when we come to number 2. Number 1.
Okay.
And number 2 on that list is money. Shit. Yeah, you need a lot of money. Sorry, y'all.
I threw Marco into that one.
Yeah, you need a lot of money. If you don't have enough, you ain't making it.
No.
It's not going to happen. And I know it's an old joke. If you want to make a fortune, if you don't want to make a small fortune in the craft beer business, start with a large fortune. But the bottom line is that if you have an underfunded project, you're going to cut too many corners, and cutting too many corners, you are not giving enough into whether it's front of the house, back of the house, brewery, distribution, any part of any aspect of this business that you need to run this business. Yeah, definitely you need money. And the number 1 thing.
Number 1, let's do it.
From Brew Sky's Happy Hour, all of these conversations, and especially this one, that you need to be successful is lawyers.
Shit.
Funny enough, Brew Sky's Happy Hour happens to have a lawyer on retainer.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
They do. Yeah. So you need lawyers. And in this episode, there are.
This episode points that out more than any other episode.
More than any other episode.
To date, yes.
But there are. The landscape is littered with partners that have come together, partners that have separated. All of that takes attorneys. Partners who felt they've been wronged, partners who knew what they were getting into and needed an out. All of this stuff needs lawyers, attorneys. When you're dealing with federal government, state government, when you're dealing with employees, when you're dealing with ownership stakes, when you're dealing with all these things.
Basically, every aspect of the business.
You need attorneys.
Yes.
You need lawyers.
Agreed.
So you need lawyers. You need money. You need tenacity, knowledge, and then we hope you have the passion. Because if you don't have the passion, don't even bother.
No, definitely not. That's an awesome list and very fitting as well. I think that this episode with Bill Owens touches on all of those in different ways, but more so, like you said, some of the things, lawyers, this episode 100% mentioned how important. Wow, important.
Oh, you know what? There is an OLI.
Lawyers are.
There is an OLI.
Okay, what's your OLI?
I apologize. It should have went in the beginning. OLIs go in the beginning, but outside looking in, accountant.
Yes.
You need an accountant. If you don't have an accountant, you are foot.
This is very true.
I don't know why I censor myself. We are an over 21 podcast. I could say fucked.
It's true, but hey, appreciate you trying to be a little more conservative with stuff. I only had 3 other notes about this episode.
All right, let's go.
One of them is another multiple choice question, so I will save that for the end.
Okay.
There is an absolutely another amazing story that mentions a houseplant in a car driving across the country that you guys definitely should listen to.
That's true.
It is hilarious and wonderful. And Brett and Mike realized that they were pains in the asses via a Reddit post. So if you're not on Reddit,
they mentioned that, They mentioned something about that.
If you're not on Reddit, get on Reddit. You never know what you're going to find out about yourselves and others.
You never know. What's Reddit say about us?
That we are the best podcast about Cincinnati Craft Beer Podcast that
We're
ever
the number
was.
one. We're the number
one
one craft beer podcast that talks about Cincinnati Craft Beer Podcast.
Although we did fall off of the Canadian food and beverage charts again. Every now and then we kind of creep onto there and then we disappear. So shout out to our friends up north. We love you guys. We're glad you're still listening on occasion at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have one last multiple choice question.
Okay. So we're
interested.
Let's see. Who? Al Pacino?
Sure. I don't know if we've had much Al Pacino. Maybe this
Julia.
is why.
Julia's multiple.
That's it? Okay. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect, Marco. You did amazing. Bill Owens.
That was Al.
I did not know this, but he pretty much invented 3 very common beer styles that we all know and most of us love today. Which of these 3 is not one of the styles that Bill Owens invented? A, the IPA.
Uh-huh.
B, the pasty stout.
Uh-huh.
Or C, the pumpkin ale.
Yeah. So did he invent D?
I'm not laughing at that one.
The toaster. E, the electric blanket.
Oh.
Or F, did he invent the amber ale?
Those are all very solid choices. And to find the answer, you're going to have to listen to episode 10 of the Brew Skies Happy Hour.
Right.
It was awesome.
And you may get some D.
You might get some D. Or you just might get some stories from some pains in the asses.
That's right.
Or both. Are you ready to move on to the most wild and crazy podcast that we have the absolute pleasure of recapping week in and week out, except for on the weeks when they don't release an episode?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go.
Shift Beers, episode 95. The final, we mean it this time, Seltzer show.
Bullshit.
It is complete and total bullshit. But hey, I appreciate their efforts to stop causing their own gastrointestinal distress with the amounts of carbonation that they ingest every time they do one of these episodes.
Every time they try and stop, they get pulled back in.
They get pulled back in, yeah. Most important thing to mention about this episode, Beth is back. We love that Beth is back. We have missed her the last couple of episodes, and she brought it. It was absolutely phenomenal.
She was great. She brought that Beth shit.
She really did. She got some great. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm still on my first beer, so
You are.
I have no excuse other than I'm just.
What's going on?
I don't know. Maybe I need more. Maybe that's the problem.
You need to be on your second beer.
Good God.
Maybe we get some 2 chicks.
You know, and I have one. Anyway, you know what?
Hey,
you know what the
now.
problem is? You know what I have not had today that I normally have here on Tuesdays?
Tequila.
A Bloxarita.
That's right.
That's the problem. I have no excuses. What? We're in the Shift Beers recap, which means
Hell yeah.
we go off the rails just as much as they do. Speaking of off the rails, they had multiple drunk line calls, and they were amazing. The very
were
first
great.
one from some friends of the show, they cut off early because they weren't drunk enough. So be warned.
I thought they were building to it, though.
That's what I thought too.
I
And
was
then they're just like, nope, we're not going to listen. I'm like,
it's like, we're doing this and this
it
and this.
could have gotten good. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
And they just
If you are out somewhere that you can get home safely from and you are drunk, or if you are home and you are drunk, call their drunk line, leave them a message. It is 804-445-2337 or 804 I'm sorry, I fucked that one up because again, I've only had one beer, so I don't
haven't
know
even
what
had the whole
I haven't even
beer.
had the whole thing. This is beyond stupid. 804 high 5 drink beer. Oh,
Julia, pause the show, finish this beer, get another one.
my God! What am I doing with my life?
I think what it is, maybe some sort of dehydration sort of thing.
So
'Cause-
beer's gonna help with that?
Yeah, it will. It will. But I think the thing is that I know you had, and this is off air, like, I know you had some trials at work that were temperature related.
This is true.
And
Very
I
true.
think you just need to take some time and collect yourself a little bit,
And get a
which
little
means
drunk.
finish this beer and get another one.
All right, we are back. I finished my beer. I should be good now. Which, if you
I think you're going to be good.
if you listen to Crime and Sports, though, saying you're good now is not a positive thing.
Okay.
But we have remedied the situation. I finished my beer, and we now, because this is a seltzer show we're recapping,
Yeah.
we decided that we needed to play the part and have seltzers. But we are upping the ante.
That's right.
Marco, what is in your glass?
I have Astra Pink Lemonade with a cowboy, which is like like a 1/3 ounce shot or something. It's a cowboy of the Smirnoff. It's pink lemonade, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Vodka.
Yes.
And so I got that with the Astra Pink Lemonade, which you can get here at Higher Gravity. And I took a drink of it. I said, holy shit, that was good.
It turns that drink up to 11, which I'm happy to say that mine is an 11 as well, which
Holy
you need,
hell,
which you need to
that's
try
so
that as
good.
well. I think yours might be a little better, but mine also
No, but yours
hasn't
yours-
infused all the way
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, yeah.
Right,
So
right.
that's the other thing I want to talk about is, so Julie, you have a what?
I have an Astra Pink Lemonade Hard Seltzer with an added strawberry blocks.
Okay, so when going to talk about blocks again, and we
Because
have
it's
blocks,
amazing.
and they're
It's
amazing. It's
so
amazing.
good.
They're amazing. So a couple of things. If you want your blocks to dig into or melt or disseminate, you can open the blocks and plop it in, and it'll be full blocks form.
Right, like
Or-
exactly like an ice cube.
Yeah,
That's exactly
or
what it does.
you can take and do a little massaging to the blocks, almost like taking. You know how you want to juice a lime?
Yeah.
Right. You take
You
a lime
roll
and
it
you
and
roll
you-
the lime.
yeah.
You can take a blocks and
you
you can
kinda
do
crush
a
the
little
pudding cup that
crush
it's
the
in.
roll the blocks cube in the packaging, and that way when you open the packaging and dispense it into the glass, it's already sort of
It's
cracked.
a quicker infusion.
Yeah,
of it.
you get
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get a
yeah.
little bit quicker infusion. So
Yes.
that's a little tip, little blocks tip,
Yes.
just the tip as far as a blocks is concerned.
And follow Blocks at On The Blocks on the Instagrams and on the Facebooks. They're a local company. They make an amazing product. And
Damn, this is good. Holy
get to Higher
shit.
Gravity and get a drink with a Blocks in it. I mean, seriously.
Oh my god.
This is what I've been missing all night. So back to shift beers. Drinking was, they must have edited some stuff down because it was only 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
When they said it was 30.
And they effed us. They're like,
Yeah.
F you, Julie and Marco, if you don't like it.
Pretty much.
It's like, no, we're not saying we don't like it. We're just
teasing
mentioning
you about it. Yeah.
We're just mentioning
How
that drinking is
freaking long
mostly half the episode.
All the time. Not just every now and then, but every single episode. Guys. Although this drinking did include a couple cool... Did I add a G to the end of that again? Is Chris going to come after me?
He's too busy.
This is true. He does
He's
have
too
a lot
busy.
going
He's
on.
at the Millcroft. He's too busy.
This is very true. There were a couple of really cool things that they talked about in this week's Drinkin'. A lot of it was about going to the Cincinnati Zoo and how it is all uphill. Like there are no
So
declines.
uphill.
Everything is an incline. And they were talking about kangaroos and like, well, how many kinds of kangaroos are there? I found out for you guys.
Oh, shit.
As you know, and they knew that I would. There are 4 species of kangaroo.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't write down all 4. You guys have to do some of the work.
Oh, okay.
But-
I thought you were going to hit us with it.
Well, there was like a
your
red
top
kangaroo,
4.
a red kangaroo, a gray kangaroo, and I don't remember the other 2. But there are 4.
A couple things. First of all, when's the last day to order a spaghetti T-shirt from?
I don't know.
Okay.
One of the stories that they did talk about, however, were getting lost as kids in different like public places.
That's true.
I got lost at Oktoberfest once when I was like 3 or 4.
Cincinnati.
Oktoberfest Cincinnati.
We had a kid get lost, and
Was it your kid?
we
I'm
did.
kidding,
It was my oldest kid, and
Oh.
I honestly, Rachel and I were not responsible for keeping an eye on our kid because we had other family members there,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the other older siblings
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to be watching this particular kid,
Mm-hmm.
and we got lost in the biggest Christmas shop like in the United States. Is up in what's it called, Bruner's up in Michigan. Giant Christmas shop, and Alicia had the wherewithal to go up to somebody that worked there and said, hey, I lost my family, and they were immediately on the walkies, and like everybody was like, blasting it out, and then we found her, and she's
wow.
okay, and
Wow.
yeah, I mean,
Terrifying.
she doesn't seem to be scarred from that event, although we as parents hold that.
You as parents are scarred by it, but luckily it did not leave any lasting impressions
No.
on
No.
your child.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Was I ever lost or left behind? No.
In this episode of Shift Beers, they drank a whole bunch of seltzer mix packs, which, as you know, typically leads to a lot of burps.
Yeah.
Let's see. Brian is back to not bringing anything
Oh, B. Ryan.
at all. B. Ryan. If he spelled his name right, maybe he would do better at this whole podcast sharing beers kind of thing, but you never know. We did get a Brian the Brewer guy kind of mini segment as part of their discussion on seltzers, which was pretty fun. Let's see. Josh finally met Sean White, the Sean White,
Sean White.
who a lot of you may not know. He is a friend of the show.
Yeah.
He is an amazing guy.
I'd love to meet Sean.
It'll happen. It will happen. We will find a way, and it will be absolutely amazing.
It will be.
I actually only have a handful of other notes on this episode. They kind of rolled through stuff. The episode was only about an hour long, a little over an hour long. If you listen to this episode, you get every single one of the Shift Beer cast members.
Yeah.
Like this is, I don't know, whatever.
Cast members.
Whatever, I'm going with it. All of their Wi-Fi passwords. So all you have to do is listen to the episode, write down a couple of passwords, drive around, park in front of their houses, and free Wi-Fi 4 days until they call the cops on
Right.
them. Which, risky.
That was funny that they did that. Always nice to run into fun people at anywhere you're at, but
Yeah,
here
especially at
the
Higher Gravity.
Higher Gravity Summit Park.
Everyone's
ran
awesome.
into
Especially producer Annie
That's right.
for producing us these amazing amplified seltzers.
Yes, shout out to
Yes.
producer Annie, who is doing a great job. And
Yes,
so,
yes.
Where did we leave off?
We were talking about fire alarm stories, which was a lot of fun this episode, which leads to a very critical piece of information that you need to know. Beth never forgets.
No,
Never forgets. She will remember to the second.
Liam Neeson.
Oh,
No,
exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself.
I have a very particular set of skills.
And it is saying the word
No.
excellent. So they were talking about how this is their final seltzer show ever. They're never going to do it again. Never, ever, 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 ever. So I thought, let me go back and see how many seltzer shows they've actually done.
This is time well spent.
It took me a little bit of time. This is their 5th seltzer show.
Okay.
Their
And
first
they're on episode, what, 95?
95.
95?
Yes.
So
Not bad. Every like 25 to 30 episodes, they need to do a seltzer show.
Sure.
The very first seltzer show was episode 10, and then episode 46, episode 59, 83, and now 95. The burp counts for the show. Well, actually, before we get to the burp count, because that's what we normally close with,
Yeah.
I have a multiple choice question based off of
Julia's
their
multiple
seltzer
choice question.
drinking, because they had some really good seltzers, but they also had some really bad seltzers on this show.
All right, so I'll give you an intro.
Okay.
What if I do maybe like end of the world movie theater
Ooh, yeah.
like trailer?
Yeah, what was his name? The movie trailer guy. I want to say it was like Don something, but I don't know. But yes,
You want me to
do
give
it.
you something
Yeah,
like that?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Because this
Are
is
you
our
ready?
last podcast to recap, so the end of the world, the end of the episode, it fits. So give it to me.
In a world where the podcast recap is going to end, there's one question with several possible answers. And the end is coming. Julia's multiple choice questions.
What seltzer flavor that they had on episode 95 of Shift Beers tasted like prom night car sex?
Ah, yes.
I'm not making that phrase up. You have to listen to the episode to find out.
Correct.
Was it A, Astor Crush? Was it B, Astor Grape? Was it C, Astor Blast? Or, I have some D for you, was it Astor Bomb Pop?
In a world where Julia has some D. You and me, baby, ain't nothing, but mammals.
my
Let's do
goodness.
it like we do in the Discovery Channel.
Oh, this episode was so much fun to listen to. Did you have anything else before we get to the best part of our Shift Beers recap?
Julia has some D. No, let's go.
All right, so before I give you the numbers for this episode,
Okay.
I want to give you the burp counts for their previous seltzer
I love that you
episode.
did this, Julia. That's so awesome. And it's one of the reasons why you're the best co-host in Podcastlandia.
So what's fun is their first seltzer episode, episode 10, came out way before we were doing this show. So I actually went back and re-downloaded and re-listened to episode 10 to get this count.
Ah, okay.
So you guys are welcome for the added
download. Yeah.
So the first seltzer episode, episode 10, had a total of 35 burps, which is 4.375 pints of your favorite libation.
Okay.
And I have a couple really quick comments about this episode, because listening back to the old episodes was a lot of fun.
Okay.
But I did notice a couple
no,
things.
give it to us.
I have it on a Post-it because we didn't have a notebook page for it.
Julia has notes on
oh
a
my
post-it.
God, guys.
Oh my God.
They talked about how they were like, man, there's so many burps you're going to have to cut out of this. They used to edit out some of the burps.
Oh my
Which is
God. They used to
ridiculous.
edit out some of the birds.
And because they were like, no one wants to hear the burps. No one's going to care that we're burping. No one's going to whatever, which I thought was absolutely hilarious, seeing where we are today. And this is where they used to record at a different location. There was no background noise for most of the episode, which you and I have noticed.
It really
It sounded so odd. Because I was listening, I'm like, man, it sounds so different. And I finally realized,
it's too flat. It's too static.
No matter how much energy they gave off as individuals without anything in the background to balance it, it was just really cool. Because I'm like, why does this sound so much different? Because they're giving that same energy that they do today. It's not like they're doing anything different. And then I'm going, it's dead silent behind them because they record now in a very different location than when they recorded when they first started. So that was super cool. That was super cool to go back to and do.
Good call out, Julia. Good shout. It's also something that we notice when we're doing our live podcasts is that if there's not background music, it just seems too flat.
Flat, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So pro podcasting, a tip for you guys, if you're doing a conversational podcast, again, it depends on what it is. If you're doing like a drinking show, something that's more social and not just a kind of back and forth, sometimes having that natural ambient background noise really adds to what you're doing, such as like a drinking show.
Sure.
Depending on the podcast that you're doing, it may or may not fit.
Right.
But
if you're doing something, super deep dive into somebody's past, you go, well, tell me, when that happened to you, how did you feel?
While Britney Spears is playing in the background. Right, exactly.
Right.
It may not fit. But I just thought that was cool, so I wanted to bring that up and mention that.
Britney Spears toxic. Baby, can't you see?
All right, so for the second Seltzer episode that they did, episode 46, I think that's when they stopped editing things out. I think around the 40s, somewhere in the 40s was where we first started listening and doing a burp count for them. Episode 46 of Shift Beers had 71 burps, which is 8.875 pints. The third Seltzer episode, episode 59, 70 burps, 8.75 pints. Episode 83, I don't know, there must have been something wrong with everyone because it is their highest burp count ever. I don't want them to break this because I think they will hurt themselves trying to do so. But episode 83 of Shift Beers was 162 burps.
Holy shit.
20.25 pints. Like, that'll kill you, either burping or the pints.
Was it a longer episode?
I don't remember. I didn't have that written down.
No, that's fine.
Trying to go through.
But that was crazy.
I don't think it was that much longer. It was over an hour, but I don't remember it being like their 2-hour long episode. But for this, their current final episode with Seltzers, episode 95, their 5th Seltzer episode thus far, they did pretty good. Not 162 good, but they did pretty well.
Well, I don't think they're going to hit their all-time. I just don't.
Like I said, I think they would have to really, really try hard and potentially hurt themselves, which we do not want them to do.
No.
This episode of Shift Beers, 79 burps.
Okay.
158 ounces, which equals 9.875 pints of your favorite seltzer.
Hell yeah. Very, very, very good.
Well done, guys.
Well done.
Well done.
Well done.
And that completes our recap of Shift Beers, and therefore, all the episodes that we had to recap this week. So our show is done.
I'm a little sad.
Yeah, but you know what? We still have some amazing seltzers to finish off.
We do.
We could probably get whatever's next in a Dora cup and just sit outside in the gorgeous sunset and have a drink in the park.
We could.
Well, let's wrap this up, see what happens. If you like what we're doing, if you had fun with our show tonight, please like, review, subscribe, share, give us 5 stars, all the stuff that all of the other podcasts that you listen to tell you to do. We would love for you to do that for us as well. You can follow us on social media. We are at Truth Beer Pod everywhere. You can watch all of our episodes on YouTube. There's no video yet. We are working on figuring that out, but you can listen to them all on YouTube. If you'd like to monetarily support our show, please do that at truthbeerpod.com. There's a big blue support us link, or if you're in the higher gravity area, you can buy a gift card for us and leave it there.
That'd
and
be
just
sweet.
let us know, or let them know, to put your name on it so we know who to shout out and thank for
For sure.
essentially the beers at
And-
Higher Gravity.
All right. So, long story short, thank you for your support. It helps.
It does.
Go and support and help us. And
If you don't like what we're doing, if you don't want to support us and you want to complain about us, send all those to @RagingHop on Twitter.
yeah, and I would urge you to continue listening because
Yeah.
at some point, I think we're going to make content that you're going to like.
Agreed.
And if not, at least we get the, fortune of you continuing to listen.
It's true.
So, anyways, thank you to everyone. And Julia, what are you doing next week?
I think I'm going to be sitting probably here at Higher Gravity Blue Ash, Summit Park, whatever you want to call it, with you, talking about the podcast we listened to this past week.
Do you want to call out anything special coming up?
I almost said October, September the 12th, Fretboard Brewing Blue Ash. You might see us there live.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. We'll see you next week.